Tonight, when your body does something your brain didn't ask it to do, you probably won't think twice about it. Your heart climbs. Your shoulders pull tight. Something scans the room before you tell it to, and nothing is there. Nothing happened. You were completely safe. And your body just treated the situation like you weren't. This happens to every human alive. Before difficult conversations, before walking into rooms, at 3 in the morning when you wake for no reason with the absolute certainty that something is wrong. Most people spend their whole lives assuming this means something is broken in them. It doesn't. The system is working exactly as it was designed. The problem is that it was built for a world that no longer exists. And it has no way of knowing that. To understand why, you have to go back to the world this system was actually built for. Because the threat was real, specific, and it did not stop. Researchers excavating sites across Africa have found hominin skulls with leopard tooth marks pressed into the bone. Not one site. Not one era. The same evidence repeated across the layers. Your ancestors were not at the top of the food chain. Something was hunting them. Consistently. The leopard doesn't announce itself. It closes distance in complete silence. By the time you hear anything, it has already decided. That is what your ancestors fell asleep next to every night. That is what waited outside the firelight. Inside the fire circle you lived? Outside it you didn't. For hundreds of thousands of years, every single one of your ancestors went to sleep knowing exactly where the line was. So the body built something, not by choice, by pressure, by hundreds of thousands of years of the same lesson repeated. And what it built is still running inside you right now. Deep inside your brain, older than language and older than memory, sits a structure called the amygdala. Not the modern brain. The old one. The part that was detecting threats, while the thinking brain was still being assembled across millions of years. A neuroscientist named Joseph Ledoux at New York University spent decades mapping how this system actually works. What he found changes the way you understand every frightening moment you have ever had. The moment your senses pick up anything that pattern matches a threat, the amygdala fires. Not after you have assessed the situation. Not once you have had time to think. Before. Ledoux measured this. The response activates in approximately 250 milliseconds. Faster than you can consciously register what you are looking at. Faster than you can form the word afraid. There are two pathways. The low road runs straight from your senses to your body, heart rate up. Muscles primed. Attention narrowed. It produces a physical response before a single thought has formed. The high road runs through the thinking brain, checks for context, applies reason, and arrives at a measured conclusion. The high road takes longer. And by the time it arrives, your body is already moving. Every time you felt the lurch in your chest before your mind caught up. Every time fear was already there before you knew what triggered it. A sound behind you. Something moving at the edge of your vision. A dark hallway that felt wrong before you could say why. Your body still leads with protection every time before reason has a vote. Think about what that means. You are not afraid because you assessed the situation and found it dangerous. The fear came first. The reasoning came after. It was always that way. But here is where it gets specific. Because this system doesn't just fire fast. It fires selectively. And what it selects tells you exactly how old this fear really is. The deadliest thing most people encounter every day is a car. The most feared is a spider the size of a thumbnail. That gap has never made sense. Until now. In the 1970s, a psychologist named Martin Seligman noticed something nobody had a clean explanation for. He found that certain fears appeared almost automatically, with almost no exposure at all, while others, fears of things far more objectively dangerous, almost never appeared at all. One photograph of a snake, not an encounter, not a bite, one photograph seen once, is enough to produce a fear that lasts a lifetime. A car accident, with the impact and the damage and the months of recovery, almost never does. Seligman called this preparedness. The amygdala carries an inherited list. A catalog of threats old enough that evolution had millions of years to wire in a shortcut. Snakes have been killing primates for 60 million years. The amygdala recognizes a snake below thought, below memory, below any experience you have personally had with one. Cars have existed for 150 years. The amygdala has no inherited pattern for them. It has to learn the slow way. And learning the slow way means the fear never has the same automatic, indelible depth. When you flinch at a spider in a country where spiders are harmless. When you grip the armrest of a plane on the way to an airport you drove to without thinking twice. That is not irrationality. Your irrational fears are not irrational. They are calibrated perfectly for a world that no longer exists. And 36,000 years ago, someone who felt exactly what you feel walked into a cave and left something behind. Chauvet Cave in southern France, 36,000 years ago. A person carried a burning torch into the dark, not near the entrance, deep inside, where no daylight reached, where the only way to see was to carry the light yourself. They pressed their hand flat against the stone wall. On the walls around them they painted lions, bears, the things that were hunting them. They went into the darkness and put their fears on the walls. The paintings are still there. The handprints are still there. The same size as yours. The same fear that drove them into that cave to paint what was hunting them. Your body still runs it, not just for predators. For something it decided was just as dangerous. For most of human existence, your social group was not simply community. It was survival infrastructure. Food sharing, fire, protection, care when you were sick. Everything that kept you alive came through the group. And what the group could take away was everything. Being cut out was not a social setback. It was a death sentence. Alone on the open ground, without shared fire and shared defense, a human did not last long. Every person who lived then understood this, the way you understand that you need air, not as a thought, as a fact of the body. The brain filed social exclusion accordingly. In 2003, a neuroscientist named Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA scanned the brains of people as they were cut out of a group, left out, told they were not wanted. What she found surprised the entire field. The same part of the brain that fires when you break your arm. It fires when someone cuts you out of a group. Not similar, not comparable. The same circuitry, the same signal. Your brain does not process social pain as like physical pain. It processes it as the same thing, the specific physical awfulness of rejection. The feeling that always seemed too large for what actually happened was not too large. It was calibrated precisely to what social exclusion cost for hundreds of thousands of years. Your body still registers being cut out as injury, not as a figure of speech, as a neurological event. This is why in survey after survey the fear of standing in front of a group and being judged outranks the fear of death. To the ancient brain, it should. The crushing quality of rejection. The dread before judgment. It was not weakness. It was the system doing exactly what it was built to do. And this system runs on a timetable. Ask people when anxiety feels worst. The same window comes back. Not during the day. Not in the early evening. 2, 3, 4 in the morning. The formless dread. The certainty of wrongness with no specific wrong thing to name. That window sits at the lowest point of the human cortisol cycle. Cortisol is the hormone that gives your rational brain its voice, its capacity to push back against the amygdala, to say, yes, I hear you, but look, nothing is actually there. At its daily minimum, in the early hours of the morning, that voice goes quiet. The amygdala speaks without anything to answer it. And that trough didn't land at 3 a.m. by accident. The body's internal clock co-evolved with the threat environment it was calibrated for. In the world this system was built for, that same window was the point of lowest fire, embers at their weakest, the circle of light at its smallest, the specific hours of greatest exposure. Lying in bed, the ceiling, the darkness outside the window, the certainty that something is wrong. Your body still runs its ancient night watch at that hour, still scanning, finding nothing, scanning again. Now here is the part that changes what every anxious moment you have ever had actually means. Evolution did not build a calm, accurate, well-calibrated anxiety system. It built the one that was wrong all the time and lived. Picture two ancient humans. The first has a system calibrated for accuracy. It fires for real threats and stays quiet for false alarms. The second has a system biased toward overdetection. It fires for real threats and also fires for shadows, for sounds that turn out to be wind, for strangers who turn out to be harmless. The accurate system occasionally misses a real threat. That person dies. The overdetecting system is wrong most of the time, but it is never wrong in the direction that kills you. Every false alarm costs a disrupted night and an elevated heart rate. Every missed real alarm costs everything. Your anxiety system was not built for accuracy. It was built to keep you alive. And the way it keeps you alive is by being wrong in safe situations. That is not a malfunction. That is the specification. Not everyone carries this equally. The inherited template is shared. The sensitivity of the instrument is not. The amygdala's firing threshold, the speed of cortisol recovery, the circuits shaped by early experience. These vary between people. The blueprint is the same. How loudly it speaks is not. And the system is not frozen. It is still responding to its environment, still calibrating, still shaped by what surrounds it. That is exactly how it arrived in you. The modern world has simply become extraordinarily efficient at activating it. Social media delivers a continuous stream of social comparison and subtle exclusion. Precisely the category of threat the amygdala is most sensitized to. The news cycle simulates an unresolved threat with no resolution in sight. The ancient alarm is unchanged. The trigger rate has never been higher. Every person who has ever lived has felt what you feel. Going back past any written record, past the first painted cave wall, past the first fire kept alive through the night. They were afraid, every one of them, and they made it through anyway. The fear didn't stop them. It was what equipped them. It moved them through a world that was genuinely, specifically, persistently trying to kill them. Long enough for you to be here. Your body still carries that, still scanning the tree line, even when there is no tree line left to watch.